Why, good morning. Have you ever felt the need to eat breakfast from a bowl that you made yourself? Or drink coffee from the skull of your enemies that you also made yourself? Or vlog maniacally over a table full of product like you were a post-consumerist lady, haven't you? Well, I have some great expectations. This video has it all. We have hazardous material. We have expensive equipment. We have geometrical calculus and even some soul-sucking marketing. I am your host, Evil Twin Skippy, and welcome to my channel about time-sucking hobbies that use dangerous chemicals and tools. All of the products on this table are food safe, dishwasher safe, and microwave safe. Oh, well, except for this one, but nobody's perfect. What makes these prints dishwasher and microwave safe is what they're printed out of, ABS. Both the resin I use and the ABS I print with have working temperatures above 100 C. That's the boiling point of water for my Freedom Unit using friends. They accept coffee right out of the pot, and they'll even be fine in the dishwasher or the microwave. Now, before you run to the store and grab a few rolls of ABS, there's a few things you need to know about. And this is where we start my segment known as Happy Fun Hazmat. ABS requires a special printer. It's not going to print on your open air ender. You really need an enclosed printer, ideally in a sealed room behind a locked door on the far corner of your property or somebody else's property if you can manage. ABS stinks, and the fumes it makes are not good for you. So this is the sort of thing that you need a good printer for. A Bamboo, a Voron, a Prusa, but you know, embedded in one of those lat tables with the plexiglass going all around. But once you have a decent printer that's dialed in, ABS prints every bit as nice as PLA or PETG. Okay, I take that back. PETG never prints nice, but you get the idea. This is something that you're going to need the right equipment for in the right environment. Meanwhile, behind a locked, sealed door on the corner of the property, I have my 3D printers. Meet TARDIS and Beetlejuice. So the process starts with a 3D print. This particular print is a totally non-infringing, world-destroying battle station that I've adapted into a candy dish. And, you know, I have my logo on the bottom. The top screws into the bottom, assuming it comes free. And the idea is that the whole thing is sealed a bit so that you can keep something that is, you know, powdered, crushed, or smoked in there, and it won't get humidity. The top has this screen so that you can drop in a humidity packet, and that just twists on. I have to address the elephant in the room. You know, you can't break the world record for the most number of 50 Shades of Grey references here. You see, you have to tie the record before you beat it. Oh, you're still here. Anyway, so what's a YouTube video without somebody going on a tear about something? Here's a little segment I like to call Why We Can't Have Nice Things. Now, as you can tell, I work with a particularly aggressive IP franchise that tends to stress things being on the light side or the dark side, but most of the characters are some shade in between. So I have become very familiar with the many different interpretations of gray, or gray, or gray, or gray, or gray, or gray, or gray. You think, okay, I'm just going to specify it's going to be silver. Okay. Would you like silver ABS from Inland or silver ABS from Inland? Both of these were purchased in the same store on the same shelf. It just turns out that one of these is just simply silver ABS, and one of these is silver ABS, but high-speed ABS plus. Now, this isn't to say that you can't work around the issue. I would just recommend stocking up on a favorite color. Now, I do have another caution for you to keep track of when you're matching expectations when you're selling online. This non-infringing battle station jar and this non-infringing astromech mug are actually printed in the same material, but this is how it comes out of the printer unfinished. Now, we are applying a finish to our products, and when we do that, you can see that it's a lot smoother and it's a richer color. So when you go to photograph, make sure you're taking a picture of the final product and not one of the early stages, because again, customers do not like surprises. Nobody likes surprises. All right. Well, we're up here in the kitchen because the lighting's decent, and it doesn't sound like somebody's murdering a robot in the next room because my printer's going right now. Plus, when I get downstairs and I start working, it's really hard to understand me when I have a respirator on. So, first pro tip: gloves, respirator, something over your eyes. This is serious stuff. Remember, epoxy is the same stuff they put aircraft, boats, and spacecraft together with. This stuff is nasty. You don't want to get it on your skin. Don't. The respirator, also completely not optional. Do not try the little dust mask. You want to filter this stuff out. If you get it inside, and I've done it myself, all of your sinuses just explode. It's like having a bad cold for like the next 3 or 4 days that will not get better no matter how much NyQuil you down. 1 star, do not recommend. I'm going to get a lot of people very angry, especially the environmentalists out there. Because we're dealing with food safe products, there is a lot of things that we are going to throw away. The brushes that I use are 1 use only. Like, well, why don't you clean them? Because anything you're going to clean them with is nastier than the epoxy, and that could get on the print the next time you go to use it. Now, if you want to take these and clean them and use them for a non-food safe operation, that's fine. But remember, the key here, people, be evil, not stupid. So the brushes are single use only. I buy them by the pack. These are the cheapest brushes I can find. They're like $5 for 12. They are a bit of a pain in the neck to use. It's like a horsehair on the end. So as you are painting, these little hairs do pop off. You are going to be, with your gloved hand of course, going in and picking the things off. The gloves, you buy a big box. Why? You put these on, you use them, you take this, you peel it off, goes directly into the trash can. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. This is really nasty stuff, and you see how this glove is sort of inside out? If I was a bright idea and decided to go put it back on, and there was resin all on the inside of this, dumb. Like I said, exists in 3 states: in the box, on my hands, or in the trash. I know it's wasteful, but there's just a cost of doing business. Now, some things I do not throw away every time. For instance, these silicone mats. I use them all the time, but the only thing that goes on these silicone mats is the print. Now, my wife also does pour acrylic, which is actually uses all the same gear as this. And to keep our stuff separate, I have a milk crate that has just all of the food safe gear in it. These mats are only for food safe prints. These paintbrushes are only for food safe prints. This acrylic is only for food safe prints. Another fun thing, I put a table on my table. Yeah, it's just a work table downstairs, but you don't want to be peeling this stuff off because, like here, I left a popsicle stick and it is now permanently bonded to this because that acrylic on there is about as strong as the wood holding it. You will either destroy the popsicle stick trying to take that off, or destroy the table underneath. It's kind of a 50-50 on what's going to give first. So you're gonna make a mess with this. Only do this in a place that you can afford to make a mess with. You note I do not have any of these things open up here in the kitchen. It will stink up the house. We've got the laundry room, and the reason why we do it in there is because there's a vent to the outside from the dryer, and we can close the door on it. You might recognize some of this gear if you've ever painted models, particularly airplane models or model cars. These are enamel paints. I have enamel paint brushes, enamel paint thinner, and the glue. The S in ABS stands for styrene, which is the same stuff that they make model aircraft and model cars out of, or at least the kind that you glue together and paint. So all the techniques you've developed for those work every bit as well for these. Another fun thing that you're going to want to play with is if you've got a large area that needs to be bonded, say you're putting something together in multiple pieces, ABS dissolves in acetone. So basically you can use a brush to apply this the same way that you would use the little bottle of airplane glue, and it bonds every bit as well as this stuff does. In fact, I would be shocked to find out if this isn't actually acetone underneath. Now, before you start mixing things together, the other fun tip I'm going to give you is only be doing this. Have nothing else. Be in tune with it. Have done all the prep work ahead of time. And you're like, well, you've done prep work. You got the tools out. No. This is art. Now, there's a temptation to say, well, I know I need about 15 milliliters of stuff for each of these prints. And let's say I'm going to do 6 prints, to just take 6 times 15 and multiply it out and mix all that up at once. That is a mistake, because you only have an hour to work with this stuff. And there is nothing slower than being in a hurry. So before I will mix up my resin, I will make sure that everything that needs to be done on these products is done before I start mixing it up. Because
if you get interrupted in the middle,
you can measure out how much you're going to use for a multi-product session and only mix up just that little bit that you're going to use for your next piece, or say in the next hour or so. Because once these two do mix, you are on a clock. And you might think, oh my God, I gotta hurry. And that is the wrong answer. The key is to only be doing the resin coating when you've got a batch mixed up. And to keep your brain free, you got to make sure that you have all of your prep work in place. Do you have all the parts glued on? Have you applied all the surface details? Has the paint dried? Have you cleaned the dust off? Because if you get interrupted in the middle, just double check everything that you're planning on doing. Now, this one came out fine. It has all the pieces. The thread action is good. Now, it's a little loose, but that's by design because we're going to be applying resin to the threads. It's a very thin coat of resin, but by the time it's done, that action will be a little tighter. Now this one, I said the lid spins on there okay, but down here at the bottom, we have a warp. So 99% of customers will never even notice that that warp is there. So I will coat this, but I will only sell this in person, and I will allow the customer to inspect it first so that there is just no surprise. If I'm shipping it for an online order, I will reprint this in a heartbeat. The couple of bucks in plastic and the couple of hours on the printer are nothing compared to the days of shipping, and actually it costs more to ship these things than it costs to actually make the plastic. Shipping for this is probably about $5-6. $4 in plastic. Remember, be evil, not stupid, before I start mixing it up. Because if you get interrupted in the middle, so my rule basically is up until I apply that final coat of resin, anything goes. Because nothing is going to either get inside or outside of that print once the resin is in place. And if somebody has compromised it by tearing it in half, well, it's not a finished, it's not a working product anyway. So don't obsess about, oh my gosh, I used a brass nozzle and there's a little trace of lead. Or, oh, is ABS? I don't know. I was reading something dumb. I mean, you can buy kitchen appliances that are made in ABS. There's kitchen tools that are made in ABS. ABS is fine for food-safe prints. What you really need to make sure of is that it's coated so that stuff doesn't get in between the layer lines. Because if it gets in between the layer lines, and also inside the infill, it is the perfect growth medium for really gross stuff, mold, bacteria, etc. And if it gets wet, whoo boy, the sparks will fly. So the resin soaks into all those spots and keeps stuff from getting in. Now there's going to be an air pocket still, and that actually has some fun insulating properties if you're trying to make a something that'll keep hot stuff hot and cold stuff cold. But yeah, we're basically using this in the same way that you would use this same stuff on a wooden tool or a bowl. This is the same stuff that woodworkers use, and they use it for the same reason, to keep stuff out of the wood. Because if you get interrupted in the middle, now these brushes are only used to apply the resin. As you are topping off this little container, fun thing is the resin that has yet to cure will pick up the resin that is kind of on the edge of curing and keep the brush wet. So as long as you keep topping this off, you can just keep using this brush. And the only time it's going to finally solidify and cure and be unusable is when you stop using it, or actually about an hour after you stop using it. So fun stuff before I start mixing it up. Because if you get interrupted in the middle, I used to kind of paint the top and then flip it over and paint the bottom like 12 hours later. But sometimes I'd forget. So what I do now is I will just coat it, all the pieces, and paint the bottom and stick it to the silicone mat. You're like, oh my gosh, it's going to stick to the silicone. Oh no, it doesn't. You just peel it right up. Now you do have to flip these over after about 12 hours so that the silicone, the resin on the bottom has a chance to be exposed to the atmosphere. So the way the chemistry works with this stuff is once it's mixed and the hardener's in there, it's a chemical reaction that I think involves oxygen. And so you need to keep these ventilated to let them finish curing. Also, if you can do it in a spot that doesn't have a lot of humidity, that's ideal.
Before I start mixing it up, because if you get interrupted in the middle.
So that is all the theory I have. You'll be seeing me just pick out little tips and tricks and weird stuff that you'll probably pick up from videos on acrylic. There's the alcohol sprayer, which is good for getting bubbles off. We've got the match, which is also good for popping bubbles. Yeah, bubbles are a thing. That's not the best camera, but some of these rejects that I have over here, yeah, the stuff went on perfectly fine, but I just wasn't slow enough. And if you're too fast, you'll pick up bubbles before I start mixing it up. Because if you get interrupted in the middle, every time you mix the two parts together, you whip out your measuring stick, and once you start whipping it around, it gets cloudy, and you know that the two parts have thoroughly mixed when it goes clear again. Now, if you're like real aggressive, you're going to get a ton of bubbles. That's not great, so don't do it. And it usually takes about a minute or so of agitation, maybe 2, to get it going. Now, because you're only mixing up a little bit at a time, you have all the time in the world to work on your print. Well, print your product details that need to be hand applied with the enamel paint. So this is that same orange. And yeah, the enamel paint takes time to dry. So before I will mix up my resin, I will make sure that everything that needs to be done on these products is done before I start mixing it up. Because if you get interrupted in the middle, it's easy to lose track of time, and then you just end up with a thimble full of cured resin and a brush that you can't use. With this stuff, they say 24 hours. I usually say 48, just to be safe. So if I'm doing a batch of these before a farmer's market, and there's a question as to whether new prints and old prints are going to get mixed together, and when you've got 2 teenagers helping you, it's going to happen. I will add a little note to the handle or drop something in the bottom that just says a do not use before date with the 2 days in the future, just to keep everything safe. Remember, be evil, not stupid. So I've covered the theory, I've covered the practice. For the next part, I'm going to go downstairs and I'll just do a couple of pieces and show you the process while also, kind of flipping through the high speed for, YouTube attention-grabbing views. I'll catch you in a little bit after I ran off a replacement for this one, and see you in a minute.